The Shark Deck.
Happy Chris Rock Day. I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Did you see this? The U.S. Energy Department released a report that said the COVID pandemic might have been started by a Chinese lab leak. Jimmy Fallon said Americans heard and were like, hey, thanks for that 3 years too late information. Any Game of Thrones spoilers? Fallon again, yeah, they think COVID started in a lab, but said they only have low confidence in the report. Low confidence, which is just one notch above, we have no freaking idea. Hasan Minhaj, hosting The Daily Show, gave him the job already. He said, how can you conclude something with low confidence? That's not a conclusion. I think the word you're looking for is guess. Fallon, I mean low confidence. That's like me saying, I think I could bench 3,000 pounds, but I have low confidence. Tonight, 10 Eastern, the big Chris Rock special. Join me on Facebook. I'll be hanging out in the Daily Comedy News podcast group. I'll start that at around 9:30. We can watch the pregame show together. We can comment about Jerry Seinfeld and Amy Schumer and everybody else, and you can say stuff and I can say stuff. I'm also going to drop a bonus episode of the podcast just covering the Chris Rock stuff. I don't know when that'll come out. Sometime between like tonight and midday Monday. I've got a lot of soccer on Sunday, so I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to bang it out. And I can't bang it out too early because I want to collect some reactions and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But there's a bonus episode coming about Chris Rock. Netflix has a pregame show at 9:30. Seinfeld and Schumer and a bunch of others are going to be on that. Then Chris Rock at 10 East. And then a postgame show with David Spade and Dana Carvey and guests like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, J.B. Smoove, and Arsenio Hall. How this all works, at 9:20 Eastern, if you pop on Netflix, you'll see a red Watch Live button. So that's a new thing, right? And then you can enter the waiting room before the pre-show starts. If you're late to the show, you can hit a play from the beginning button or watch live. The special will be available to rewatch on Netflix once the stream concludes, but the pre- and post-game shows will not. So if you want to watch those live, 9:30 tonight. According to the Huffington Post, Chris Rock has been working out at the Comedy Cellar. He also had done a recent show in Baltimore working out this material. I'm going to talk about the specific material, so if you don't want me poisoning your brain with A, the jokes, B, the jokes told poorly by me, you might want to skip ahead a few minutes. I'll give you a second here. At the recent show in Baltimore, Rock worked the Will Smith stuff in. He teased it early on using rhythm and repetition to build comic impact, pitching his voice high and loud to underscore his indignation. Then the line that I talked about yesterday, Will Smith practices selective outrage. People who are in the know that stuff had nothing to do with me. At another point, he took issue with the children's nursery rhyme Sticks and Stones, joking, words only hurt if you've never been punched in the face. Vanity Fair has recounted everything Chris Rock has said about the slap so far on stage. So these are major spoilers if you want to skip ahead. Last April, at a show in Atlantic City, Chris Rock joked he had an interesting week and joked that Atlantic City is too close to Philly, referencing Will Smith's hometown. On April 8th, he was in California and said, life is good, I got my hearing back. I'm okay, I have a whole show to perform, and I'm not talking about that until I get paid. May 3rd, Chris Rock opened for Dave Chappelle at the Netflix is a Joke Festival in L.A. Remember somebody jumped up on the stage and attacked Dave Chappelle? Chris Rock joked, was that Will Smith? 2 nights later, Dave and Chris discussed the attacks. Chappelle joked, at least you got smacked by someone of repute. I got smacked by a homeless guy with leaves in his hair. July 29th, Will Smith releases a 6-minute-long YouTube apology video. In the video, Will Smith says, I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. That same day, Chris Rock played the Fox Theater and said, everybody's trying to be an effing victim. If everybody claims to be a victim, then nobody will hear the real victims. August 28th in Phoenix. This is great job by Vanity Fair, huh? Chris Rock jokes that hosting the Oscars would be like returning to the scene of a crime, like OJ asking Nicole Brown Simpson to go back to the restaurant. Rock adds, he's bigger than me. The state of Nevada would not sanction a fight between me and Will Smith. September 1st in the UK, Chris Rock jokes that Will Smith is as ugly as the rest of us and tells co-headliner Dave Chappelle that he got slapped over the nicest joke I ever told. November 10th, they announced the live Netflix special. March 1st, Chris Rock said the other day, I watched Emancipation just so I could watch him getting whipped. 9:30 tonight. Come hang out on Facebook. Daily Comedy News podcast group. Marlon Wayans has a new special. This came out yesterday. He did a lengthy interview with The Hollywood Reporter, and this does come back to Chris Rock and Will Smith here in a second. This special, fully financed and produced by Marlon Wayans himself. The Hollywood Reporter asked him, when did you decide the special was going to be about the slap, and did HBO Max have any questions? Marlon said, I'd seen the slap when it happened. I swear I watched it like everybody else, and I called Chris, I called Will. See, everybody's a friend, so I texted Will, and I was like, are you okay? Chris, I was like, where's your face? I was doing a show in Oxnard that weekend, and I talked about it on stage at the Improv. I had 5 minutes of thoughts, and I like to speak truth on stage and see where it goes. So I did that, and by the end of the week, I had 15 minutes. I kept exploring the truth, and it became like a Rubik's Cube to me. I got one side. That's the Chris Rock side. I got what's my experience with Jada, and then what's my experience with Will? What's my experience in the industry? What's my experience as a black person? What do white people feel? Before I knew it, I had an hour of material. I was actually doing a set about my mom and dealing with the grief of losing my mother. I was like, sorry, Ma, I'm going to put you on the side for a second. I need to explore this. I did Netflix as a joke in April. I had all this material, an hour and a half. And then this set all blended, but it was bifurcated. So I decided to separate the two. And before I knew it, I had an hour in this Chris, Will, and Jada thing. Normally, you tour for a year or two. I toured this for 3 months. This is really, really interesting, right? Like, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, I want to watch the special tonight. Except I'm not home this weekend. I have a lot of soccer. Plus, I don't know if I mentioned it, there's a Chris Rock special to watch. I wrote it on stage. I never put a pen to the things. I experienced the set. Maybe it's because I've been doing stand-up so much the past 10 to 12 years. It's allowed me to have the freedom to create in front of people. Before I knew it, I had this beautiful piece. It felt good. Audiences gave me standing ovations. Women loved it. It was just such an honest perspective and didn't come from a mean place. It came from like a healing place, not just for myself, but for the involved and for the people who watched it. I filmed it in August in Atlanta because I did a show there and I loved it. It's a great room. Then I cut it together and presented it to HBO Max, and they did something they never do, which is they loved it so much they licensed it. Marlon Wayans was asked, did he reach out to Will Smith or Chris Rock? No, because in their art, they don't ask me, what do you think of this? I think as artists, we all do what we do, especially because it's such a sensitive subject. I didn't want their opinions. I just hope they gauge and trust that I love them, that I'm being objective, I'm being honest, and being real. And the purpose of this is more healing than it is deconstruction. I did this in Atlanta on purpose because black women will tell you when you went too far. They will. They'll go, don't do that. And this one got a standing ovation. They loved it. The Hollywood Reporter said, Chris Rock's style is more cutting than yours, which we see in the special, can at times offer grace to your subjects. How do you feel about more targeted comedy, having been on the end of it yourself with Chris Rock? I love it. I think there's a purpose for doing cutting comedy. I'm a cutting artist. They say mockery is the best form of flattery, and that's the way we, Wayans clan, look at it. Anybody we've ever made fun of, for the most part, even in this sensitive time, usually laughs the loudest. Chris Rock is a brilliant comedian when it comes to looking at the point of view of what's funny about people. He's always been. He gives them the truth about what's funny, even when it's at us black folks. Chris is, I won't say a mentor. He never took me under the wing, but he's somebody that I always look to in comedy. He's a brilliant comedian. You can't take that from him. No slap could slap the greatness out of him. He's just a brilliant mind and a brilliant comedian. He's always been like a big brother because I kind of grew up around him. He and my brother Sean used to do stand-up comedy together. Keenan Ivory Wayans put Chris in the movies. We know each other. I know his brothers. I know his family. So that's why for this special, I had to talk about it. I can't worry about what everybody's thinking, what everybody feels. I have to talk about it because nobody else is. I have to come from an honest place as a brother. I felt bad for Chris's brother Tony when this happened. I know me and my brothers would have been waiting outside the Oscars ready to jump Will. But at the same time, I can imagine what Will felt like. So I just felt like in this moment, all I could do is speak truth and hope everybody could see it themselves. But most of all, I saw myself as an artist come together over a 30-year period to be like, this is why everything happens to you. Hollywood Reporter said, in the special, you tackle every perspective or question offered up about the incident, except for one major one, which was Pinkett Smith's alopecia. Why? His answer, that's a condition, and that's something I won't say I'm making fun of. Nobody knew she had it. Jada's a very stylistic person. She's fashion-forward. I don't think Chris saw the episode of Red Table Talk where she talked about it. So I think Chris is just kind of commenting off the top, and I think they were dealing with the condition of it, and Will was being protective. I just felt it would weigh down the special. That needs its own 10 minutes. I think that's a separate piece, and that takes investigation. It's not what I knew, and I don't want to be insensitive to anybody who's going through that. I think that would have just convoluted the message, so I left it out, and I just explored what was funny from a place we can digest. That's a special unto itself. Hollywood Reporter, you spent some time talking about Smith's relationship to white Hollywood, as well as the different decorum dynamics among races. How much did you want to say about how whiteness ultimately shaped that slap moment? Wayans, I just want to talk about the truth of everything. Will talks about it in his book. I'm not uncovering anything. I'm just saying it out loud. Hollywood's a funny place because it's like a bank. You get chosen to, like a horse, be bet on. It's different in some ways for comedians. We have to prove ourselves in theaters. We have to be a proven commodity. We're stars. They find you at like 18, 19, 20, and they go, we're going to ride this horse. Except for somebody like Eddie Murphy, who was just that big of a star that he could rock for 40 years. Even Will, he's an international box office name. He's a phenom we've never seen as black people, but he talks about that. And there's a lot of precedent to go with that. So it's just uncovering the truth from a comedic perspective, not a dramatic perspective. If you look at a guy like Will, I got to say, I'm proud of him. Up until that moment, what that man has dealt with being the biggest star in the world, time in, time out, a proven commodity worldwide. They'll tell you have no value in Japan. You put yourself on a plane, you go to Japan to sell your movies, and people are going crazy, and you're proving them wrong. Will's always been that guy. He's been a prime example of what it is, not just for me as a black man in Hollywood, but to erase the racism that sometimes comes with Hollywood's eyes to say, no, you're not going to label me. I love Will, I love Jada, I love Chris. I say that in my special. I'm not coming as an enemy, I'm coming as a friend with love going, here's what's funny about them. I would have told the jokes to them. Oscars night, I was going around, I talked to Trevor Noah, I talked to Tyler Perry. We were all sitting there talking, everybody was talking about this. I'm not just a guy to whisper it. I got some jokes, I'm going to say them out loud. Boy, as long as I went there, there's still half the article left, so I think I'll come back to this next week. This really makes me want to watch Marlon Wayans, doesn't it? Maybe that'll pair up nicely with Chris Rock, or is that too much? Maybe you just watch Chris Rock tonight, maybe do Marlon tomorrow night. Really looking forward to this. I mean, this is a major comedy event. The bar for Chris Rock tonight is so high. Like, people have been waiting a year for this thing, plus it's live. Plus that Netflix added on the pre- and post-game hype. I mean, this is a major comedy event. The bar is super high for Chris Rock. Of all the comedians I've ever seen live in person, Jerry Seinfeld's the best, Chris Rock the second best, and they are 1 and 2 and very, 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 very high on my list. So I'm not saying like Jerry's way better than Chris. I'm just saying I saw back-to-back Chris Rock and then Jerry Seinfeld, and Jerry was better than Chris Rock. When I last left you, I was reading Us Magazine's 25 Things You Don't Know About Jim Gaffigan, as provided by Jim Gaffigan. On yesterday's podcast, I did the first 11. Don't you want to learn more things about Jim Gaffigan? Of course you do. Number 12, the most famous person in Jim Gaffigan's phone book is Jerry Seinfeld. I like how he said phone book and not phone. My answer is Steven Van Zandt, by the way. Number 13, his first job? Grocery store stock boy. Number 14, favorite room? His bedroom. 15, favorite comfort food? Having too much of anything. 16, starstruck moment. The first time I appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman, I felt like I was meeting Mark Twain. Proudest moment of my career? Same thing. Letterman. All right. That's kind of one thing, Jim. That's not two things. 18, favorite movie? Force Majeure. What is that? Force Majeure appears to be a 2014 movie. A young Swedish family, mom, dad, 2 grade school-aged kids, begin their skiing vacation at a French alpine resort in typical holiday high spirits. The first day on the slopes, they pause to have their pictures taken by a tourist photographer. Then on the second day, something extraordinary happens. They're having lunch at the resort's rooftop restaurant when they hear a loud report from the mountain above them. Snow begins to topple down. It's a controlled avalanche, a common thing in ski resorts, but this one quickly comes to seem excessive. Spoilers, but everybody's okay, and then there seem to be some twists and turns, and I'll have to ruin the movie for you, and it's really about an avalanche of emotions. Interesting pick, Jim Gaffigan. Next up, I watched Fleischman is in Trouble, and I loved it. That was amazing. I agree, Jim Gaffigan. 20. The comedians I looked up to the most when I was growing up were Jerry Seinfeld, George Carlin, and Bill Murray. 21. The famous face I'm mistaken most for is Philip Seymour Hoffman. We all know this, Jim. You bring it up in every interview. That's not something we didn't know. We know. 22. During the summer, I like to decompress by working in my garden. 23. I would never, ever do karaoke, no matter how drunk I am. I'd never do that. 24. The most challenging thing about being a dad of 5 is everything. 25, my alternate profession would be a farmer. 26, if I ever get really famous, I'll return the calls of people that helped me in the early 2000s when I was just starting. Oh, no, sorry, that's not on the list at all. You know, as if today's not a big enough day in comedy, you know what else is happening today? Adam Sandler. He's going to be honored at the 2023 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. He is winning the King of Comedy Award. Yes, great job, kids. And how old are these kids? Say they're like 7 or 8? I'm sure they love Adam Sandler. They're so familiar with him, I'm sure. Adam Sandler's prolific career of more than 30 years will be recognized with a silver blimp statuette. He'll accept the honor while sitting in a giant throne on the stage. Sandler said, "I've had so many great times at this fantastic awards extravaganza. I'll always be excited to hang with the kiddies." So if you need something to do before rock, you can watch Adam Sandler and the Kids' Choice Awards. It'll be on Nickelodeon and a bunch of other channels starting at 7 Eastern. That should walk you right up to the Chris Rock pregame show, huh? Adam Sandler, the king of comedy. If you like what I do here, go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. I will take your money. I will go to the National Donuts chain, and it will pick up my order that I didn't even tell you that I ordered already. Yeah, it's in the phone. Large iced coffee, caramel, almond milk. It'll be there. It'll say John M on it. I'll walk in, I'll grab it. No one will even talk to me back in the car. Thank you. buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Sunday is the last day of Just for Laughs London. I've been playing the What Should We Go See Tonight game a day in advance to take advantage of time zones, or to not disadvantage ourselves of time zones. In case you're listening in London, you're like, I wish I had known this a couple hours earlier, Johnny Mac. All right, you got a day in advance. Relax. Well, I would tell you, no doubt, we're going to see this first show at 1 o'clock, and again at 3 o'clock. There's probably two groups. New faces. If you've listened for a long time, you know that I go up to Montreal just to see new faces. Catherine Bohart is your host tonight, 1 o'clock. Should I read the names? No, they're new faces. You don't know any of these people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at 1 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the 3 o'clock showcase. If we were in London, I'm making you go to both. Too bad. Which means at 2 o'clock, you're going to miss Basil Brush's Family Fun Show. This seems to be, are you a fox? I don't know what this is. Looks like a fox wearing a green jacket. Join Basil and Mr. Martin as they bring you a show full of magic and laughter, storytelling and jokes. I can hear somebody in the UK right now going, how do you not know what Basil Brush is? And yelling that it's a coyote or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Should I look it up? Basil Brush is a fictional red fox. See, I had it right the first time. It's not a coyote. Best known for his appearances on daytime British children's television. Are there coyotes in the UK? I'm going to Google that too. We want to know. We know the answer is going to be no, but we got to be sure, right? Basil Brush is primarily portrayed by a glove puppet, but he's also been depicted in animated cartoons, shorts, and comic strips. He's got a catchphrase, ha ha ha, boom boom. Are there coyotes in the UK? There are no coyotes in the British Isles. There are no wild coyotes in Britain, or indeed anywhere outside of North and Central America. There's a lot of searches for this. The next one, do Britons hunt coyotes? Are coyotes a menace in Britain? The answer, no. There are no wild coyotes in Britain, or indeed anywhere outside of North and Central America. All right, relax, Google. Basil Brush's Family Fun Shows at 2 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, Comic Relief, The Truth and Everything Except the Truth. Richard Curtis, co-founder of Red Nose Days, joined by Comic Relief stars as they reveal Comic Relief, The Truth and Everything Except the Truth, an afternoon of comedy, memories, and mishaps. 5 o'clock, Felicity Ward's The Mother Effing Trilogy. Felicity Ward is back with a mother of a show. In 2019, Felicity, like many other people, had a baby. Then she wrote almost 3 hours of stand-up about it. This is it. I'm intrigued, but 3 hours? That's long. 6 o'clock. Comic Relief, proud every day with your glorious host, Sue Perkins. 8 o'clock, Max and Ivan's The Wrestling. I've talked about this on and off. I want to see this. Professional comedians versus professional wrestlers. The Wrestling is a death-defying Edinburgh Comedy Award-winning sellout mega show, the grandest, most outrageous, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Calling the action at ringside will be the team of Aisling B., Nish Kumar, and Greg James. As for the matches, Rosie Daddy Jones will be defending her championship belt. Ed the Gambler Gamble will be teaming up with pro wrestler Levi Muir against creators Max and Ivan. And the main event will feature the Raging Horn, Alex Horn, Phil Wang Wang, love it, Glenn Moore, a.k.a. Glenn Morg, and the Ringfluencer Abby Clark. Tremendous fun. All right, this is pretty easy for a wonderful Sunday. We're doing new faces, more new faces, then we're getting dinner and some beverages, and then we're doing the wrestling, and that'll close out Just for Laughs London. Boy, wish we were actually there, huh? All right, we got Chris Rock tonight. Hang out with me on Facebook, and like I said, I'll drop a bonus episode at some point. That is your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. All right, see you on Facebook later on tonight. Did you know you can name a cockroach after your ex-lover and have it fed to the animals at the zoo? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with 5 Good News Stories. It's a podcast twice a week where I tell you 5 good news stories, 5 fluffy stories. I just want to make you smile to start your day. I can tell you about a cat and a rabbit that fell in love, or I can tell you how porta potties are about to be a lot less horrible. What kind of show is this? It's called 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories. Follow it, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. 5 Good News Stories.